Hello, my name is Reed Silverne. The name of the show is Fed Pride. The reason it's called Fed Pride is because I'm a federal worker and proud of it. Today I'm going to talk about white-collar corruption in the form of congressional corruption. That, of course, relates back to the federal government. And I'm going to start with Randy Duke Cunningham. I don't know if anybody's been following the news on that. By the time you see it, news could be pretty old, but I think it's a very interesting and indicative situation. And what this is about a Republican congressman from San Diego who claims, or some people claim, that he is the original Top Gun. I know who's seen that Tom Cruise movie, came out I think in the late 80s, maybe early 90s, about the school where they teach pilots how to dogfight. And exactly who Randy Duke Cunningham was in that movie, or what his character represented, he was a Top Gun. He was a Navy airplane ace, apparently pretty far back in the 70s and 80s. He received a bachelor's degree in 64 and 65, spent a year as a swimming coach, and became a pilot. And he was an ace in the Vietnam War, full-up ace. He flew F-4 Phantoms aboard aircraft carriers, 5 confirmed kills of enemy planes. And Vietnam was one of those wars where a lot of airmen, a lot of pilots met their deaths, were shot down, and actually directly dogfought with enemy planes. That's rare nowadays, but it still happens. And he was one of the best. He allegedly downed Colonel Nguyen Thun, the Vietnamese fighter ace, flew a MiG-17 against him. And it might have been Cunningham was shot down, and down the plane. And there is, of course, a question whether it is really a Colonel Thun. Of course, could be cartoon. However, I'm not going to make light of that. He was a great hero during the Vietnam War, and he does have 5 confirmed kills. I don't know whether it was this particular individual. And he was reportedly, however, almost court-martialed while in flight school for breaking into an office to compare his records with those of his colleagues. He denied that, but his superior officers have said that in various interviews. And that's kind of where the Top Gun stuff might come in. He became a instructor at the Top Gun school in San Diego. That's Miramar Naval Air Station. After he returned from Vietnam. And supposedly many of his real-life experiences as an instructor were depicted in the 1986, I was wrong, movie Top Gun. Although the movie's director and producer says that there's no specific individual. But it certainly could have been him. He was an instructor at the Top Gun school, and he did go to Top Gun school before he went to Vietnam. So he earned an MBA from National University, and he started his political career right during the run-up for the Persian Gulf War. He was on CNN as a commentator talking about all the great planes and so on and so forth. And a seat opened up because the Democrat Jim Bates, in the most Democratic district in San Diego, got into a little trouble on sexual harassment. So Mr. Cunningham ran against him in 1990, hammered him on having no morals, and that Cunningham would be a congressman that people could be proud of. And apparently he was for many, many years. I'm a Republican myself. I've said it many times. I support the pro-military John McCain wing of the Republican Party. But to be very honest, right now, I'm sick and tired of the things that are going on, particularly in Congress. And it's just scandal. It's pure scandal. The only reason it's not hyped is because the hype machine basically hypes the liberals' weaknesses, not the conservatives. However, this seems to be changing, and these stories are coming out. So there wasn't a lot of press until the indictments came out for Mr. Cunningham. And the question is, what did he do? And why is this coming up now? He just resigned, and he resigned with a very teary farewell and was seen off, so to speak, by the House Majority Leader, or by the Speaker of the House, Mr. Hastert. And of course, the House Majority Leader is Tom DeLay, and Tom DeLay has had to step down. So there's a substitute Majority Leader named Blount. And that kind of fits in, and that will fit into this story as well, and to these others. So he got a lot of attention when he got into Congress because he was a war hero. And he played an important role in the debate on the first Gulf War, and basically treated as a celebrity by his fellow Republicans, even though he was a mere rookie at the time in politics. After 1990, they redid his district so that it brought in a lot of Republican North County, basically set him up in a safe seat that he could be reelected from. That's our system now, until the cows came home. He was a member of two very important committees, Appropriations and Intelligence, and he was actually chairman of a subcommittee on House Intelligence Analysis and Counterintelligence. Very, very important. A lot of the secret stuff, a lot of the anti-terrorist stuff, all goes through that particular committee. He cut his rudder on this issue, and he challenged the patriotism of Bill Clinton in '92. He did a lot of other things. Called Clinton soft on crime. However, scandal seemed to have chased him a little bit. In 1996, his son Todd was arrested for marijuana. Well, marijuana is not that big a deal. Maybe it is. I certainly would have nothing to do with it. But his son was transporting 400 pounds of marijuana. So it wasn't just a matter of they caught his son with just a little marijuana. They caught him with 400 pounds of marijuana. The congressman asked for leniency for his son, and his son was sentenced to 2.5 years in prison because he tested for cocaine while he was on bail. So 2.5 years, however, is not that big for such a major 400-pound marijuana bust, but it certainly was some serious time. So when all this has happened over here, he's had a son who has been to jail. Obviously, he's now out. What is the problem over here? June 2005, a defense contractor named Mitchell Wade, and he's founder of MZM Incorporated. Now it's called Athena Innovative Solutions. Brought Mr. Cunningham's house for almost $1.7 million, sold it a few months later at a $700,000 loss. Basically, it's a free $700,000, and Cunningham used that money to buy a bigger and better house and also put some in his pocket. This particular contractor started receiving tens of millions of dollars worth of defense and intelligence contracts after that. And when the thing first came out in June of this year, Cunningham said, "I feel very confident I have done nothing wrong." Later, it was reported that Cunningham lived in a yacht while he was in Washington. Every congressman usually has a Washington home, and then they have a home in their district. So the home in the district basically was bought for $700,000 more than it could possibly have been worth. And then, meanwhile, the guy is living on a yacht. Well, who's paying for the yacht? Surprise, surprise. It's owned by the same guy, Mitchell Wade. And he's renting it basically for free, only for maintenance. There's all kinds of sleazy allegations. I won't go into that. But the FBI launched an investigation into the real estate transaction, and his home was raided on July 1st, 2005. Two co-conspirators were named by the U.S. Attorney. Wade, of course, we've already talked about him. He's the guy who owns MZM Incorporated. And then there's another guy named Brent Wilkes, another defense contractor. What a surprise. What do these contractors make? Basically, they are selling a document digitization system so that all these secret maps and so on and so forth can be digitalized, put on computer, and sent through, I'm just assuming, secure networks so that they can do the analysis on it. This guy, Brent Wilkes, owned a company called ADCS Incorporated. And Cunningham had bullied the Pentagon. And of course, they used the word bullied in this particular article. Maybe he just requested into a $20 million, buying a $20 million document digitization system from this guy Wilkes' company. Pentagon didn't want the system. They didn't think it was that great. And Cunningham went ballistics at a Defense Appropriation Subcommittee hearing and demanded that one of the undersecretaries of Defense, let me tell you, Donald Rumsfeld is the Secretary of Defense, Undersecretary of Defense, very high level, extremely powerful individual, and highly responsible. And to demand his firing over a $20 million issue, most people would think it's pretty silly, and some people would kind of think there might be something weird about it or suspicious. Cunningham denied these charges. On June 23rd, he said he acted honorably and honestly during his 14 years in office. By July 14th, he announced that he would not run for another term and that he displayed poor judgment when he sold his home. He was also criticized for selling merchandise on his personal website, including a $600 buck knife with the official congressional seal. Of course, I don't know why anybody would want that. Of course, he didn't have permission to use the seal. So it sounds like he was just kind of a little shaky on the ethics side. Until November 28th, 2005, about a week ago, a little over a week ago. And of course, you might be watching this second or third showing. Maybe I should say 2 weeks ago or 3. But on November 28th, he pleaded guilty to tax evasion, conspiracy to commit bribery, mail fraud, wire fraud, and answered, when confronted with these charges, answered, "Yes, Your Honor," if he had accepted bribe from someone in exchange for his performance of his official duties. His house sale at the inflated price was one of them, free use of the yacht, a used Rolls Royce, I don't know which one of the guys gave it to him, teak furniture, Persian rugs, jewelry, $2,000 contribution to his daughter's college party, graduation party. Only a few of many, many other bribes that he apparently took. This particular total apparently is $2.4 million for a guy who's already making, I think, a couple $100,000 a year, including his salary, per diems, perks, and so on and so forth. Why did he need to do this? He didn't. He was a congressman. He had a Navy pension. He had his own home, obviously, because he did sell it at the time, a home worth almost $1 million. Did he need to do all these things? Did he need to run interference for these two sleazy contractors who were selling things to the government and to the Pentagon that even the Pentagon didn't think they needed? Apparently not. And yet, it happened. So, who is Cunningham? Cunningham is a member of two important committees. The most important is the Appropriations Committee. If anybody knows how Congress works, there's a budget committee that sets up the budget. There's each of the committees dealing with HHS, defense, so on and so forth. However, those are still almost, in a sense, recommendations. The actual appropriation, which is the money that Congress gives to the executive branch, is done by the Appropriations Committee. and this guy was a member of that. Also a member of the Intelligence Committee, which kind of fits in with this whole map digitization issue. So he was a guy who would have direct influence over the kind of thing that this guy Wilkes in the ACDS and this other guy Wade from MZM Incorporated was trying to sell the government. And magically, millions of dollars, and I've heard over $100 million in contracts went to these two companies. And companies that really didn't have a lot of background in these particular items. Wilkes, for instance, worked for another company that had originally put together the bid for this digitization. He left the company, he was kind of a lobbyist, he left the company and started his own and got the contract instead of the company that he had previously worked with. So it just kind of tells you that there is this kind of underbelly that's going on in Washington. People used to accuse the Democrats of feeding this underbelly, and they did. There was the house banking scandal where there's a little kind of post office in the House that would hand out money and advances to the congressmen, some of which never paid them back. So basically they got money for nothing from the federal government. And so things have been going on for many, many years. However, in 1994, there was a Contract for America, and the Republicans came in with a vow, took over first the House, later the Senate, okay, with the vow that they were going to be different, that they had morals, that they had family values, and that they would not do this kind of thing. Now, over a period of time, a machine kind of came in here, a machine run mostly by Mr. DeLay that could raise any amount of money, but they were fit in with certain lobbyists, Abramoff, so on and so forth. And just that moral compass kind of started to disappear. Tom DeLay, Mr. Bob Ney, other congressmen started taking trips that I'm sure they never would have thought of doing when they were just, honest rookies or whatever. And this guy, Randy Cunningham, he went even farther, basically making deals to sell his house at much more than the house is worth, living for free. I mean, living for free on a yacht, how did he think that nobody was going to put two and two together? If nothing else, eventually the IRS was going to get him. So the thing is, of course, silly, but then again, criminals are stupid, and they're often silly. They don't really explain, how did this guy who was a top gun, and he might have had a bad inclination in there, especially if the story about, breaking into the teacher's office to take a look at the records. We don't know if that's true. We don't know if it's not true. Sounds like a silly prank. However, you never know. Maybe it indicates just a kind of on-the-edge kind of thought pattern. And there's no doubt about it. As a top gun, liked to take risks, wasn't afraid of risks, and maybe that contributed to this guy taking risks now with his life, with his career, with his finances, just to get a little more. But why would a guy like that, with his integrity, a high office, the respect of everybody, a war hero, just go off the deep end? And $2.4 million might be a lot for me, might be a lot for you, but for big businessmen, it's a drop in the bucket. He could win a lottery and win a lot more than that. He could get fed a stock tip and win more than that. So it doesn't seem like that much to risk everything for, and to humiliate himself and humiliate his party and basically humiliate the American government. So, am I shocked about it? Do I think, should this happen? Of course it shouldn't. Is Congress incapable of this? And is it an absolutely shock that somebody in Congress would take bribes? Let me say something about what is a bribe. In Congress and anywhere in politics, you can take money from people that are involved in your business. You can take campaign contributions. However, you can't have a quid pro quo. Quid pro quo means I am doing this solely because you were doing that. So the fact that they were able to relate or get him to admit and plead guilty that I stayed on a yacht for free, I took a used Rolls Royce, I sold my house for $700,000 more than it was worth, he had to have done a specific act that's related to those specific takings in order to get convicted of that crime. He could, you know, if it's a little fuzzier, they might still convict him on money laundering or IRS violation, certainly staying on the yacht for free, and if he didn't disclose that as income, he might get in trouble for that. But bribery is a definite, a tit for tat. He did this, he took this, he did that for that guy. And there's no doubt about it. He actually got upset, threatened to have a Undersecretary of Defense fired because he was trying to, the Undersecretary of Defense, trying to shut down a procurement that, according to him, the Pentagon didn't need. That guy was doing exactly the right thing. And here's a congressman having a fit, and not just a congressman, the head of an intelligence subcommittee and a member of the Appropriations Committee. Don't forget, the Appropriations Committee, 10, 15, 20 people, they decide what not just the Defense Department, but the entire executive departments, all $1 trillion or $2 trillion get appropriated. So very, very powerful person to upset. What happened to Cunningham? He agreed to forfeit his house in Rancho Santa Fe, the house that he bought with the proceeds from the house that he had sold. Wade had paid off his mortgage on the new house, so that obviously is a little bit more than the $700,000 occurred in that transaction. He'll forfeit more than $1.8 million in cash, antiques, and rugs, or maybe it's more than 2.4. And he tried to sell his new house, Cunningham, but the federal prosecutors moved in to block the sale after evidence that he had brought it with the same guy's money that had overpaid for his old house. Congressman Cunningham will get sentenced in February 2006, and he could get up to a maximum of 10 years in prison. However, he does have a guilty plea, and there might be more to it than meets the eye. Here are two sleazy but relatively small companies. Direct relationship between what they had given him and what he had done, but we don't know if there could be more to it. Cunningham had been defiant when the charge first came out. Now he's extremely contrite. He announced that he was stepping down. He said, "I publicly declared my innocence." This is what Cunningham said. "Because I was not strong enough to face the truth. So I misled my family, staff, friends, colleague, public, even myself. For all this, I am deeply sorry. Truth is, I broke the law, concealed my conduct, disgraced my high office. I know that I will forfeit my freedom, my reputation, my worldly possessions, and most importantly, the trust of my friends and family. In my life, I have known great joy and great sorrow." This is what Randy Cunningham put in his statement resigning from Congress. "And now I know a great shame. I learned in Vietnam the true measure of a man is how he responds to adversity. I cannot undo that I have done, but I can atone. I am now 65 years old, enter the twilight of my life. I intend to use the remaining time God grants me to make amends." He'll still receive his pension. He was in the Navy for 21 years, and I think he deserves it. But he's also, oddly enough, going to receive his congressional pension, and those are large. That I'm not sure he should get. The name of the show is Fed Pride. The reason it's called Fed Pride is because I'm a federal worker, and I'm proud of it. This show is usually on Sundays and Tuesdays. Please tune in and tune in the future.